parler des nomades des 7 Mongols. Cette leçon sera liée à l'évaluation d'IES à venir. C'est donc très important de prêter attention aux détails de l'histoire et aux points clés présentés pendant la mini-leçon. Très important. Okay? Faites attention pendant le cours car vous pourrez apprendre correctement au sujet des tribus nomades de Mongolie au nord de Chine aujourd'hui. Okay?
No problem.
No problem. Yeah, okay. Copiez les informations, s'il vous plaît, de la présentation. So please copy all the information that you see with the paper and pencil that you should have brought to class today. Okay, l'histoire. Regardons ensemble. Et l'histoire de la Mongolie.
L'empire de la steppe, plus vaste qu'aucun autre empire ayant jamais existé. Aujourd'hui, je te parle du célèbre Gengis Khan, né vers 1155. L'enfance de celui-ci est...
Culture. La culture mongole traditionnelle s'engraine dans des pratiques chamaniques qui structurent l'ensemble des rituels sociaux, allant les cérémonies de guérison au culte dédié aux esprits de la nature. Les hiérarchies claniques sont renforcées par des systèmes de patronage intergénérationnel où la transmission de l'autorité suit des principes de... Est-ce que quelqu'un peut lire le premier point? Peut-être... Est-ce que vous pouvez lire? Non? Ok. Ces migrations sont également influencées par des facteurs politiques et militaires, car les mouvements de population sont souvent cohérents. Donc, c'est beaucoup de viande. Question 1. Comment? Les steppes. Ok. Question 2. Quelles étaient quelques traditions ou coutumes des Mongols? Non. En français?
Oh yeah.
Okay, pas vraiment, mais ok. Question 3. Pourquoi les Mongols voyageaient-ils d'un endroit à un autre? Pourquoi est-ce que...
Les animaux pour les saisons.
Oui, ok, très bien, oui, pour les saisons et pour survivre. Ok, j'accepte. I'm so sorry to put you guys through that. I know that was awful. I hope that didn't make any sense because that's the whole point. What did you notice during the lesson?
That was about 7 minutes of instructional time. That was it, 7 minutes. We had some real diligent workers up here. I think everyone sort of let, I say, fall off after 5 minutes. It was kind of like, okay, so think of that when you're teaching 80 minutes of a class. You can think of 2 or 3 feelings that you were going through and that can transfer to what possibly students are feeling. And when the questions came, for those of you who did, go for it and try to participate. Yeah.
How did you feel in the moment?
How was that?
You tried, but then I asked you to answer it.
I think I know it, but I don't know how to tell her I know it. Right. So that's another one too to think about perception.
I also noticed after you ventured that first time to answer the question, you didn't try again for question 3. Yes.
Like I can read a lot of French, but I'm not fluent for sure. But my speaking is way worse than my reading, and so my answer was very basic.
Yeah.
But I think I understood more, but like I can't communicate that in French.
Yeah. So even
And
if
then
the
it was
input,
just too fast.
Even if the input was like,
Yeah.
okay, like you maybe got some of that,
Yeah.
you were unable to express that understanding.
Yeah, and it was just too fast for even like because I don't think in French. I'm putting it in English, but like then it's the next thing. So it's like I got some of it, but the video especially because there's no words on the screen.
Yes. So most of you are doing a great job in your classes, but while you're certainly not doing all of the following, there may be at least one aspect of your lesson delivery that could benefit from some change. Okay? I'm going to go through some of the things that probably made it really difficult to keep up with this lesson. I used font sizes and colors that were really difficult to read. So it's like this turquoise text against a navy background, kind of just like blended in, right? Especially because we didn't really turn off these lights either. Ideas were presented in point form, but text chunks were long, paragraph-like, and shown all at once, making them overwhelming. So just having walls of text without any kind of chunking. Overuse of subordinate clauses and abstract terms. This can make things difficult, even just like as I mentioned. He can read quite a lot of French, but because there are a lot of complicated phrasings that I included in this be hard to follow, even for someone who is literate in the language. There were no translations provided for technical and difficult vocabulary that even native French speakers might not know. Okay? There actually are some words in there that I had no idea what I was saying. I was just reading through. There were few or no helpful visuals. This is also a key one. So if you guys recall the slide that was talking about culture, I put in a picture that said culture. So there's a visual aid, but is it really supporting what I'm talking about specifically? Like, no, not really, right? Or same with the migration slide. So that was about the way that the Mongols follow and chase their animals. That's why they move around. Even for that slide, it was very ambiguous, the picture I put. It could have been refugees, it could have been like, migrants. It wasn't necessarily referring to the migration of the people of the Mongolian steppe, right? There was no variety in the delivery mode. I did include a video in the beginning to try and make things interesting. It's quite similar in that they're just practicing their listening skills. That leads quickly to disengagement. I think during the video, I remember when I was walking around, you were kind of just looking at me like. Also, I forced you guys to take notes while listening. I think that fragments attention. The point of you guys having students in class is that they're listening to what you're saying in the moment. When they're being forced to take notes in a foreign language that they don't think in, they're not paying attention to anything that you're saying or what the words mean. They're just trying to copy everything down frantically. And they probably didn't even get to do that because I was going through so quickly, right? Most importantly, I spoke and read through slides way too quickly. Okay, so thanks for bearing with us. We're going to try that same lesson again now, in a more FSL-friendly way. Okay, bienvenue à la classe d'EAS. Qui c'est a visité toutes les provinces de Chine sauf 3? Qui c'est? Est-ce que vous savez? Oui, quelques-uns de vous, oui, ok. Il va même retourner en Mongolie cette année avec le voyage W, où il pourra monter à cheval et tirer à l'arc. Okay? Nous allons apprendre sur les nomades des steppes mongoles. Vous n'avez pas besoin de faire des notes, pas besoin d'écrire des notes pendant le cours. Je vais vous donner tout le matériel. Écoutez bien et regardez les détails de l'histoire et des points clés. Les Mongols étaient un peuple guerrier, extrêmement cool. On va regarder ce vidéo ensemble à propos de Gengis Khan et l'histoire de Mongols. Je vais ralentir.
Fondateur d'un empire de la steppe plus vaste qu'aucun autre empire ayant jamais existé, aujourd'hui je te parle du célèbre Gengis Khan.
L'empire mongol a changé le commerce en Eurasie. Des routes reliaient la Chine, le Moyen-Orient et l'Europe. Culture. La culture traditionnelle a un lien avec le chamanisme. On fait des rituels pour les esprits de la nature. Chaque famille a un chef de clan et souvent l'autorité passe du père au fils. L'art est dans la musique de gorge, la broderie et la décoration des yurts. Voici le chant de gorge. C'est vraiment unique à la culture mongole. Écoute. Est-ce que quelqu'un peut essayer de copier ce son? Ok, merci. C'est vraiment unique. Oui, c'est difficile à faire ce son. Ok, régime alimentaire maintenant. La viande est la nourriture principale. Ils la mangent séchée, bouillie ou grillée. Okay? La viande. Ils boivent du lait fermenté comme l'airal qui vient des chevaux et mangent du fromage. Il y a peu de céréales et de légumes parce que le climat est sec et la culture préfère beaucoup d'énergie. Qui aime le thé au lait? Est-ce que vous aimez le thé au lait? Oui, ici. Okay. Est-ce que vous savez que les Mongols ont un thé au lait salé traditionnel? Je crois que c'est vraiment délicieux. Okay. Je n'avais pas déjà essayé, mais oui. Ok. Avant la nourriture moderne et les céréales, les Mongols étaient parmi les peuples les plus forts et plus sains du monde. Migration maintenant. Les Mongols bougent beaucoup avec leurs animaux parce qu'ils chassent la viande. Ils changent de place selon les saisons et pour survivre, les familles déplacent leurs maisons, les yurts, pour trouver de bons pâturages et les déplacements peuvent aussi dépendre des guerres ou des alliances entre clans. L'Empire mongol était le plus grand empire continu de toute l'histoire. Regarde, c'est énorme. Oui? Langue. La langue mongole fait partie de la famille altaïque, des Turcs, Chinois et Tibétains. Vérifiez vos compréhensions maintenant, and you can answer in English. What is the main food in the Mongolian diet?
Meat.
Meat. 2. Who united all the small Mongol tribes in the 13th century? Yeah. And even if you're looking at this question here, okay, without the English translation, de quel animal vient le lait que les Mongols boivent le plus? Chevaux. You even got the word in French. Yeah. So Irat, right? So it's the milk that comes from horses. De quelle langue la langue mongole prend-elle des mots? De quelle langue?
Turks,
Tibetan.
and Chinese.
And Chinese, yeah, fantastic. So, guys, those words I didn't actually translate because you can make those inferences. They're spelled closely enough that you can guess what they mean, right? Perfect. So I think you guys all understood. Was this lesson easier to follow along? Did they agree? Yeah. So here are some changes that I've made. I added a topic hook with space, right? So this is my personal sort of teaching style, but I do like to make sure that lessons always begin with something interesting that is relevant to students so that you can grip their attention first, and then you segue into the main lesson. Scaffolded video captions with better translations. I also increased the font size. I slowed the video down. So even if you guys were unable to really keep up with that video, I think there were enough key terms that give you some understanding about what this speaker is talking about in that moment for you to kind of make guesses. I use a readable font size and high contrast text against the background. Okay, so I think it's okay if your slides don't really look that nice. Like, so long as they're functional and students are not feeling overwhelmed when you're presenting them, it's a good slideshow. I chunked information to reduce overwhelm. So instead of having a wall of text, I animated each of the points so that as I'm talking about a specific point, the student knows where I'm at and where to look. We have like kind of a visual or textual cue to support them in their understanding. I also embedded translations for unfamiliar and technical vocabulary. And this one, of course, is up to your own professional discretions. If you think that certain words can benefit from being translated into Chinese, absolutely do it. But we are definitely not asking that teachers do it for every single word. I included lots of visual support that is specific to the content at hand. I use more body language and gestures, and that's tough for me because I'm an introvert and it doesn't come naturally to me. This really helps, and I'm sure that many of you guys might have heard of the idea that like 90% of communication is just body language, right? And finally, I had the audience focus on listening and processing the information rather than splitting attention between note-taking in a foreign language no less and paying attention to what's being said. So I think whenever possible, it's always great to give students that sense of security that they're going to receive the content afterwards. Even if they miss something, they can go back later on and there are resources for them to refer back to, okay? So that they can really focus in the moment on listening to what's being said. And most importantly, I slowed down my speech. That's the biggest and easiest thing that we can all do to immediately see some improvements in our lesson delivery, okay? Is to slow down when we're talking. Okay, so not to get academic or anything, but please recall the pinnacle of like all teachers' colleges, Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. This is where we want students to be, and it's really important to remember that EAL students automatically find themselves out of reach zone. It's not because they're less capable or not because they're less intelligent. They're just held back by a language barrier. So the more that we can try and push them towards that place of, they kind of don't know, but they can make inferences based on the context, the better. Okay? So the purpose of this session was to give you a first-hand sense of how language learners feel in subject classrooms and to show how small changes in our delivery can greatly improve the effectiveness of instruction, specifically in an EAL context. Because some of the changes that I made that I just showed you guys, maybe it doesn't apply to all classrooms. And I have been in your classrooms observing, and we can say that we saw a lot of fantastic pedagogical practices, but maybe those are more suitable for regular classrooms, not when they're language learners, right? So even like, for example, having all the text on the slide. I've been reading off my slide. That's the first thing you think when you go to university. Well, why am I paying so much money to like watch the professor read off the slide that he's just gonna post after? Anyways, it helps for EAL students to see the text, okay? So sometimes going off on tangents, maybe expanding on certain points, it's harder for EAL students to keep up because they have no idea what you're actually talking about. There's no visual cues, right? So little examples of that. Quick final note, so English and French do share several similarities, both grammatically and etymologically. And the reason is because between 30% to 40% of all English words are borrowed from French. So you'll notice that there are a lot of terms, the ones that I didn't translate, they're spelled the same way in English, right? So you guys can easily kind of pick up on what I'm talking about just based on the way that a word is spelled. But in the English to Chinese context, it's completely different. And any Chinese speakers will probably understand this, like when they were learning English, how difficult it is to try and wrap your mind around English as a language, because these two languages develop so separately, so differently. Vocabulary-wise, there's like no comparison, right? Okay, so yeah, let's do right by our students and try our best to make the necessary pedagogical changes to meet our school's changing language needs as a team, okay? We can do it. You guys are already doing fantastic in your classrooms. Sorry for putting you guys through that beginning part. I know it was pretty painful to sit through.
Thank you.
Thank